Sindhu, thank you very much for speaking to CNBC TV18. Always a pleasure speaking to you. For India, given that 40% of your R&D globally is coming from SAP Labs in India, a quarter of your patents are coming from India, what role is India going to play in SAP's global AI ambitions?
Yeah. Today, if you look at SAP's ambition when it comes to AI, we are talking about being the leader when it comes to business AI, right? And when we talk about business AI, I always talk about focusing on the 3 R's of business AI. One is we are making sure, Ritu, that everything that we do is relevant for the business. It's reliable, it's done in a reliable manner, and it's also about responsible AI for the business. Now, if I switch on the India context, you mentioned it absolutely right. India is the largest R&D hub for SAP. 40% of our global R&D workforce is based out of India. You mentioned quarter of the patents, all that is spot on. But what is also unique for India is the fact that India is the only location of SAP where we have the entire breadth of our product portfolio in one location. Okay. Now, what that means for AI is that when we talk about relevant for the business, a lot of that work when it comes to infusing AI or generative AI across our lines of business is happening right here in India, right? And by 2024, we are going to double our AI talent out of India for SAP. And which means the innovations that are happening in generative AI, where we are infusing Gen AI across our lines of business, but also bringing that into the core of our business technology platform is driven out of India.
You know, so tell us about that talent, because last time we spoke, you're setting up, of course, a new center right here in Bangalore.
Yeah.
And you said that has the potential to employ another 15,000 people.
Yes.
Are all of them going to be trained in AI, or what are your plans on this front? Because you have the technology, you need the talent for it.
Yeah, but Ritu, I think what came into the mix recently is generative AI. AI has always been there, right? So in that sense, if you look at how we kind of reimagined how business processes can work across our lines of business, be it a lead to cash or be it a total workforce management, we've always leveraged AI for reimagining those business processes, right? So in that sense, our core talent who works on that is already working on these technologies. The only mix that has come in now is generative AI. And with generative AI, our strategy, like we talked earlier on, is also to bring in the players, the open ecosystem players into our core business technology platform. So which means for our talent, it's also about making sure that we use those technologies which are exposed via the business technology platform and bring that into the core of our portfolio. Now, what is happening in parallel, Ritu, is also we are working with a lot of the academia where our talent is working, like recently we had the cohort passing out of IIM Bangalore, where we had an entire cohort of AI for managers, where we have our people leaders who went and spent 16 months of their time. Of course, they have their day job at SAP, but they also spent several nights working on making sure that they deeply understand the foundational aspects around how they apply the new technologies to the work that they're doing, also looking at problem solving itself from a different lens so that they can come in and be the multipliers for their teams. So it's really multifaceted in which how we are looking at upskilling, reskilling, working with the industry, working with the academia to drive that penetration into our talent.
You know, Sindhu, we also have to congratulate you for assuming the role of the Vice Chair of Nasscom.
Thank you.
Which is, you know, the industry body for IT. So, you know, as you assume or as you don this new hat, what would be some of your key priorities that you'd perhaps take up with policymakers as well?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Ritu. And I mean, I've been with Nasscom for a long period of time and very grateful to take on this additional role as Vice Chair for Nasscom. And if I just look at the India context, Ritu, there's no better time to be in India as compared to now, right? I mean, if you just look at every aspect that we are a shining star, I mean, today this is the time for India to kind of also give back to the rest of the world, right? I mean, we have the fastest growing economy, the second largest digital economy. If you just look at the talent and our #1 pole position when it comes to even AI talent, right? 16% of the world's AI talent is here, in India for the world. And so if I don my Nasscom hat, this means we have to keep that pole position. We have to be number one, where today we have, with everything that's happened with digital public infrastructures and how are we scaling it out, is really that steadfast focus on keeping that edge when it comes to technology, right? This will continue to be our focus, and this goes back also to what you said. How are we building that strong partnerships between the government, the industry and academia to make sure that we are always ahead of the game, keep our core USP, so that making sure that very early on that we make sure that the talent is abreast with what's happening in the industry. That is definitely a core focus. The second thing, I've been a huge proponent of leveraging technology for scaling some of the fundamental issues the world grapples with, right? Okay. Like take for example bias, or take for example having inclusive practices in the workplace. And technology can help us scale those solutions, and I think there are phenomenal ways into bringing those technologies across the length and breadth of the country. That's the second thing which will definitely be in focus. And the third thing, what technology enables and which Nasscom has always had as a key role, is how do we get this into the length and breadth of the country? Because technology is what is empowering people. You don't need to move people to the metros, right? And this is, you get the technology to the people, give them all the skills that's needed to start businesses of their own, become self-sufficient. That is the third piece, which is definitely top of mind for me.
Well, you know, interestingly, even at the recently concluded G20 summit, we heard artificial intelligence, perhaps for the first time, in a declaration that came out in New Delhi. I wanted to understand, you know, what are the sort of conversations you'd be having with policymakers? Because ethical AI, responsible AI, something you spoke about, is very much what the declaration also spoke about.
Yes. Definitely. I mean, in fact, if I just look at how the government is working with the industry, it's very beautiful to see that they're bringing industry practitioners to the table and helping them in that deliberation process of making sure that we formulate the requirements in the right way, which makes sense, which is making all aspects of responsible AI, like you said, and ethical usage of AI. I mean, it's a very important piece, because finally, the decisions we take have a large-scale impact on people, societies, the larger ecosystem and the world at large, right? And it's beautiful to see how India is leading the way in those conversations, where we actually have phenomenal proof points of having done things at scale, right? Because if it works for 1.4 billion people, then it works in any other part of the world.
All right, and we wish you all the very best with that, Sindhu. Thank you very much for your time here.
Thank you, Ritu. It's always great having this conversation.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you.